You are tuned in to the Week in Review, presented by the Prosper Group, where the right turns to win online.
Join us each week as we take a look at what is happening in digital advocacy and politics with a right of center focus.
Welcome back to the Prosper Group Week in Review podcast. At the Week in Review, we talk politics and digital from right of center for campaign professionals, political insiders, elected officials, and first-time or aspiring candidates for office. I'm Dan Huber, your host. On today's show, we'll discuss a weekly digital tip on testing, creating a warm welcome for digital supporters, and social media conversations. All right, let's get to this week's digital tip. Last week, we talked about reviewing your website content, which is good digital housekeeping, making sure you go back and verify your content's relevant and fresh. This week, we want to talk about testing landing pages. You should be running ads to build your house file right now. If you aren't, definitely that's something you should look at doing. But depending on who you're working with, running ads to your landing pages to build your house file, make sure you're testing various pieces to make sure that they're performing well. You can test both your ads as well as your landing pages. And if you're working with a good organization that knows what they're doing, they should be doing this for you. But if you're trying to go it in-house, there's a few things you should really pay attention to. On your landing pages, incorporate testing related to calls to action, update your copy, look at other content, really focus on maximizing conversions, trusting the data that you get from your ad platform as well as the results that you're getting. So make sure that you kind of have some ability to tell what your variants are and what the results are. One tool I like to use for landing pages is Unbounce. It's really good. To really see like how your variants are performing and to follow that. But ideally also follow your KPIs and track data further down the funnel. What is your average donation? What is the donor lifetime value? Those things are a little more big picture that may take a little more time to get into prospect, or perspective. But really what I would encourage you to do is look at how much you're spending, how many eyes you're getting, and what those are converting to as far as leads and supporter leads within your house file, as well as how many of those prospective donors are actually converting and the frequency and the amount that they're converting to. And to the extent that you can look at all those pieces, promote out the landing pages, the ads, the test copy that's really working for you. And, be cognizant of the fact that that may change over time. That's our weekly digital tip. I hope you find it useful. Next up, I'd like to discuss the importance of a warm welcome with you. So this kind of came to mind to me recently. I was flying and I was getting ready to board a Southwest airline flight. There was a gentleman in line who, kind of timidly was saying, I don't know what to expect. This is my first Southwest Airlines flight. And it occurred to me after the fact that, this was a missed opportunity both for raving fans of Southwest, which Southwest is known for, but really to, welcome someone to the group, someone who was kind of expressing vulnerability, a little bit unsure about what he was doing. And, as I thought about this, I thought there were some real relationships to how people approach not just campaigns, maybe for the first time, but also interacting digitally with your campaign, that sort of thing. So, I think there's really some relationship between that vulnerable Southwest passenger flight and, maybe a first-time voter, a first-time volunteer, a first-time email signer for your campaign or organization. And so, it's really important to welcome those people with open arms. They may never have voted before. Maybe they just turned 18. Maybe they've tuned out politics until now, but for some reason they feel they need to get involved. You don't really know what their situation is. And for most of us, we've probably been in that situation for years, if not decades, related to politics. So we kind of know what to expect. But if someone's new to the group, new to the organization, we really want to welcome them with open arms. And so, a few areas digitally that I think we should be doing this. Really think about if somebody signs up for an email list, warm them up, send a welcome series of emails, make sure that you're introducing yourself, the organization, the campaign, the candidate to that prospective person, and really, trying to build the relationship, make them know that they're welcome here. This is a place for them. In much in the same way, send welcome texts. If you're using MMS, there's opportunities to have some, additional graphics, really kind of build on some of that. On Twitter, you can send a thank you tweet or direct message thanking them for following you on Twitter. I think that's always a best practice if you have the time and resources to do that. A lot of these are the same things that, you would traditionally do with volunteers or you would traditionally do with donors offline, but bring that same sort of welcoming community atmosphere to the digital arena. You can go real crazy if you want and really try and leave a positive impression. Create a welcome selfie video. If you were really aggressive, maybe running a small local campaign, you could do individual selfie videos and, send them via DM or, send an SMS for someone who signs up for your SMS. But, you could even do a general thank you message, send it out via email, say, thank you for joining. Here's what I stand for. Here's what we're doing. And this is how you can be involved. And we really appreciate your support. I think that's really great. It builds kind of a direct relationship. And it also adds to that authenticity piece, which, I talk about authenticity a lot. I think it's an important piece that, sometimes I feel like we drum on it a lot, but was reminded recently by probably one of my best and oldest friends that, that authenticity piece really makes a difference. And as much as we talk about it, as much as you see researchers and pollsters talking about it, there are some people who think they need to show up in a very contrived, non-authentic way when they meet with people. And even if you aren't the person that's maybe 100% aligned with where they are, they want to be, they're going to give you a little extra mileage in who you are if you show up as the person you really are, because they want to know that they're speaking to a real authentic person. They're not talking to a Barbie doll. They're not talking to some sort of contrived political candidate that you're trying to be who you think everyone wants you to be, because we're used to seeing people like that out there, and people can see through it and they know whether you're real, whether you're authentic or not. So again, recognize the importance of your digital supporters. Remember that they aren't just the vanity metrics of, oh, I have 700 followers. They're real people and they should be treated like real people. And if you do that, they will also treat your campaign in an authentic and genuine way. So definitely think about that. All right, we're going to end the show today with the weekly social listening update. Every weekday, the Prosper Group sends out the AM Rundown, which is powered by social listening from the Prosper Group. It's packed with a daily summary, social trends and politics, and a digital best practice. So definitely check that out. You can sign up for the AM Rundown at prospergroupcorp.com/AM Rundown. So we've been following the conversation around filibuster. That's actually down again this week, 31% to 87.4 thousand, mentions, tweets, retweets. And I throw that out. I think the main reason it's down this week is there was a big bipartisan achievement for the administration with the infrastructure, but I think it's cognizant to be clear that that's going to continue to be a drum that's being beaten on the left. So I think we'll see that continue to rise over time. I don't think it's a permanent downward trend by any means. Infrastructure itself up 17% this week, about 601,000 tweets in the Twitter conversation, pretty sizable. Probably a big win for the Biden administration, but I think it's an opportunity also for the right to say that they're willing to crack down and get things done, and that they didn't necessarily sign on to the $3 trillion that the left was originally going for. So I think there's some wins for both sides there, regardless of how it's played in the media. Looking at gas prices, up 2.3 cents for gas prices this past week, ending August 2nd. That comes to $3.15 per gallon in the United States on average. And the average conversation or the conversation is up 7% this week. Moving along, so we've been following the border crisis. It continues to be a pretty big conversation that's out there, and also something that I think is going to continue to be quite sticky and not go away. It's up 37% this week. There's about 63,400 tweets in the conversation this past week, so fairly sizable. We were following unvaccinated. It's down 2% this week, 236,000. I think that conversation is going to continue, but we may not follow it as closely because of how pervasive it is. And I don't know that the same level of volatility exists there. Similarly, masking's down 4% this week. But the big kind of breakout one that we've been following in the AM rundown this past week is Cuomo resign. So this is 235,000 tweets. And quite frankly, I'm not sure there was much going on next week or this past week, which means that the growth was 74,112%. This will be interesting to watch over the next week or so. I know that the New York State legislature has signaled that they may go forward with impeaching the governor. And this follows on President Biden calling for Cuomo to resign. So definitely a lot of conversation out there, but also some mixed conversations on both sides of the aisle. So interesting to follow and watch. Well, as I mentioned earlier, if you're interested in receiving the AM rundown from the Prosper Group, you can go to prospergroupcorp.com/AM rundown. I want to thank everyone for listening today. This has been the Prosper Group Week in Review, and I hope you have a great week. Thanks.
You can find our Prosper Group Week in Review podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.
If you like the show, please subscribe and share.